I was one of those people who felt like I couldn't put anything out there unless it was
Mm.
perfect. And I didn't feel like my writing was perfect. And Brene Brown helped me. I read her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And thank you, Brene. And decided, you know what? I'm not going to let perfectionism hold back my creativity any longer. I'm going to create.
You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. Today's episode is sponsored by the book that will empower you, encourage you, and through its expression help you to advance to your next level. Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success by this guy right here you're hearing. And the good news is you can now hear the book on audiobook. So head over to Amazon.com or Audible.com or Apple Music, pick up the audiobook. And that's today's sponsor. Go out and buy a copy or a few of Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success, and advance north to your next level of greatness. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today, folks, because she's a fellow Christian. She loves Jesus, y'all, and she has got a boatload of experience because, my goodness, she is a ministry veteran, y'all, because she's been helping out in the ministry since she was a teenager and all the way up to now where she's in the women's ministry. And she's even assisted with planting churches out in Denver and Los Angeles, so the great city of LA. And sadly, in 2001, she nearly lost her life after a debilitating fall. But the good news is she turned her pain into power because during her recovery, she earned her Master's of Science degree in holistic nutrition. And she implemented natural remedies into her diet that helped save her life. And it doesn't stop there, folks, because in 2018, a nice little content creation catalyst happened again because became disabled again after a foot injury in 2018, and that forced her to focus her ministry into book writing, and she dropped her wonderful debut book, Beyond the Thorns, Discovering Gifts and Suffering, and its companion, The Study Guide. And to put the icing on the cake, she is off the market because she's freaking gorgeous. She and her husband have 2 adult daughters and 1 baby granddaughter. So let's give it up for this wonderful lady, the delightful, joyful, and sensational Darci J. Steiner. How you doing today, Darci?
Wow. Well, what a welcome. Thank you, Dom. I'm so excited to talk with you today and love that color behind you. It's just enlightening.
I guess the pun's intended with that one, huh?
I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like the crazy time I'm recording this and looking back on some of the folks that appeared on the show. I'm like, at least a good 30% of them came from Podmatch, and they've been like freaking
Mm.
5-star humans, just about all of them. And I'm like, wow. So the roll continues like a hot dog and a cinnamon roll. Because with you, we got you to here today.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much. So, yeah, lots to talk about. And those falls just, kind of ended up being an upside of suffering for me. Bad things happen, but good things can come as a result. And God somehow changes our life direction and fulfills his purpose in ways that we never imagined, but that he always knew. So I've got to experience that twice and grateful, very grateful. Even though I can't walk, I have a ministry. And even though I couldn't walk before, I earned my master's and began to walk. And that nutrition degree helped heal me. So I believe it can again. So still practicing nutrition too. So lots going on while I sit.
Oh, wow. That's what I'm talking about. That's right. So I guess someone's sitting and being fit. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember that show way back when. I used to participate in that Sit and Be Fit. I can't remember what her name was, but I used to sit on a chair and watch the television and do Sit and Be Fit. And my little daughter, my little 2-year-old, would be sitting next to me in her little tiny chair and doing the exercises too. It was adorable.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. Oh, man. Well, this is interesting. So, a master's in holistic nutrition, and you said that helped you. So, actually, funny enough, like the week we're recording this, we actually had Risa Gru's episode drop, and she mentioned how can basically be medicine or poison. So, it looks like for you, it's been medicine. So, wow,
Absolutely.
that's really
Yeah.
interesting. That's really interesting. That means you probably got a 6 pack too, because they say the 6 pack abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym, right?
Well, it's under there somewhere. I don't know if you can see them, but they're there.
Don't worry, it's Zoom. We're good. Oh man.
Oh, you're funny.
So what led to that decision-making process of going for the master's in nutrition? Was it just some research you did? Was it just inspiration from God? Like what led to that decision?
It was for survival. I was in such a bad place after my fall that doctors did not know what to do with me. And I had lost so much weight that they expected me to pass.
Hmm.
And so it was up to me because they had no idea what to do next. So I had already had an interest in nutrition. And before my fall down the stairs, I had ordered my first set of books for my master's program. So they were just sitting around for years. And after being bedridden for a couple years, I picked one up and I opened it up, and there was a protein shake that I asked my husband to make. So he did. And it was one of the few things that I could eat, because when you're in so much pain, you're not hungry. So I was not hungry, and this was really good. It was a great protein shake. So I started gaining some weight. So that helped me gain some hope. So I had a good motivation to stay alive and be with my 2 little kids and my husband, and it went on from there. Um, the more I learned, the more I asked my husband to implement, because he was the one doing all the cooking. And so he helped me and made really nutritious foods. We got rid of fish sticks and carrot sticks. Well, not the carrot sticks, but the dressing that went with the carrot sticks. A lot of dressing that went with the carrot sticks. Minimize that. Just got rid of stuff, the fried stuff, the processed stuff, and brought in natural vegetables and fruit and these protein shakes, and yeah, changed it up. And it was slow. It took me 6 years to get my master's, but the school gave me extra time because of my situation. But they saw also how it was helping me, and I saw how it was helping me. So that was kind of the foundation for my nutrition business. And to back up a little bit, I had a condition called complex regional pain syndrome that I developed as a result of my fall. And usually this happens as a result of a fall, and it occurs in a limb. And for me, it was both my feet. And so I was unable to walk because of the pain in my feet. So I developed this CRPS, which is very complex to treat. It's a nerve pain disorder. And most people who get it never heal from it.
Hmm.
And that's how remarkable this was. So I don't believe it was just food. I believe it was the healing hand of God as well. And I opened my nutrition practice with no pain. And I worked at the local high school and taught sport nutrition, which was very fun. In fact, I was going to write a book on sports nutrition until God intervened and I had another accident. But I love sports nutrition, and I was able to practice it on my kids. And they were at the high school where I taught it, and they just got to see their mommy come full circle from being bedridden to teaching them sports nutrition around their friends at the high school. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, so that was the nutrition basis. And so clients liked that. Clients liked that I, had experienced pain and that I could help them with their own pain. And I'm currently doing that again with myself, drinking these protein shakes. It's like round two, I'm in a boxing ring. I'm like, she's down for the count. Is she going to get up again? And so I'm in round two, and we'll see. I'm walking a tiny bit. I'm able to walk around the house a little bit, and this
Sweet.
is new. Yeah. So that's kind of my story where I, then got into my second book.
Ah, quick question. So, did you have fun messing with your kids while you were teaching at that high school?
Of course, I chose them to answer questions.
Yeah.
and and you better know the answer. Because you learn this from home. And when, in high school, like, okay, who's going to raise their hand? Well, nobody. So you have to choose someone, and the one person is your kids. So you put them on the spot. Great question, Dom.
Oh yeah, it's like one of the joys of parents. It's like, all right, especially when they're in their teenage years. Like, all right, y'all want to get on my nerves and get on the last one. All right, I got you covered, fam. I'm gonna teach you at your high school, and I'm in your class. So yeah, welcome to my world.
Yeah, I'm in your space, but welcome to my world.
That's right. There's no escape. Well, that's a beautiful
Oh.
testimony, and that's the good thing about God. He gave us amazing bodies that even no matter what happens with everything going on, we can still heal if we tap into what our body truly needs. And it's great that that degree actually helped you out with really
Mm.
giving you a compass of where to go with your nutrition. And that's amazing. And that's what really degrees are truly for. It's like you actually get to use them. You're probably like in the 5-10% of people actually get to use their degrees.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and on a daily basis. And for survival, like, it was a really good choice. And so I'm still able to practice part-time online since everything has moved online. I practice part-time online and it works pretty good. So we're just sticking with it, sticking with
Uh,
nutrition. Yeah.
so you got the honey on the nutrition, how you're sticking to it?
Mm-hmm. It's
Uh,
for me so far. So I'm thinking it's going to work again and help me get out of this second debilitating accident, heal from it. But if it doesn't, then we'll just roll with that. And God has something else in mind for me. But um, so far, so good. I'm on some medicine too, and I'm hoping to get off of that because I don't like being on that stuff. But right now it's kind of required, kind of necessary. So we're doing both.
uh, Don't blame me. It's good as long as it helps, and as long as you're not crawling on the ceiling, thinking you're seeing a alligator in your bed or something.
Yeah, not quite. That would be bad. We we wouldn't be talking today.
It's like, reschedule health reasons, then get back around to it. It's like, oh, I had to reschedule because I saw an alligator in my bed. It was crazy.
Yeah, thankfully I didn't have to do that today.
Man, oh man. So how did the
Oh.
second fall happen?
So my daughters grew up, and my oldest daughter got married. And at the end of the wedding, thank you, God, that it was the end of the wedding. I was helping to clean up, and we were almost done. And I was walking by a stack of chairs that were leaned against the wall, and I was going to get my dress because I had forgotten my dress in the Evergreen Lake House. So I was walking by, and I guess the trembled the chairs somehow, and one slipped and hit my ankle, which was the same place that the CRPS had settled before and reinitiated that CRPS syndrome, that complex regional pain syndrome. So it felt like a broken ankle, is what it felt like. And so I went to the doctor and confirmed that it wasn't broken. So, my family, everybody hoped that it was just a sprained ankle, but it's been 3.5 years, and it has been, wow, very similar to the first time that I was disabled. A lot of pain. Anybody who has CRPS can attest to the fact that it's just excruciating pain that comes with it. And, you're just constantly trying to control the pain and keep the level of pain down. And why writing came into the scene was because writing helped keep my mind distracted. It keep my mind focused on something else, that instead of just on my ankle and staring at my ankle and my feet and why can't I walk and lamenting and, oh God, please heal me and help me, and why me and why this and why twice, and all of those questions that come when we ask God why something happens. So I started blogging, and I was like, oh geez, I didn't feel confident in my writing. I was one of those people who felt like I couldn't put anything out there unless it was
Mm.
perfect. And I didn't feel like my writing was perfect. And Brene Brown helped me. I read her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And thank you, Brene. And decided, you know what? I'm not going to let perfectionism hold back my creativity any longer. I'm going to create. And so I began blogging. And my blog was called Radiantly Broken, because I talked a lot about, I talked about nutrition, I talked about pain and sorrow and suffering. And I had lost my father. I lost my dad 2 years ago,
Mm.
and I lost my mom 14 years ago to a car accident. So it was a sudden death. And so I talked about just different sorrows in my life, job loss, just grief and pain. And I thought, how can I make something good come from this? And people were responding to the blog. And so that helped me gain more confidence to write. So I started writing a bit longer pieces, and I took a writing class with the famous Bob Goff.
Mhm.
Yeah, Bob Goff is my favorite writer, and I was able to interact with him on this during COVID. He did a writing class online, and he allowed us to send our writing to him, and he would critique it and then give it back to us. So that those meetings with Bob gave me the confidence and a launch pad from which to write my book. And so I started forming that and told different stories that happened in my life about you mentioned Los Angeles. There's a lot of Los Angeles in this book. And the beauty beyond the thorns, the beauty is Jesus, because we all have thorns in our lives, like Paul. I mean, Paul talked about the thorn that he had in his life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we all have thorns. There's not one of us that don't have a thorn that can't relate to suffering. So I thought, well, okay, who's my target audience? It's hard to narrow it down because everybody has had suffering. And the book isn't just for people who have physically suffered. It's for those who have mentally, emotionally, because this has been an emotionally tough journey as well. So yeah, 3.5 years later, I'm just starting to walk. And do you want me to talk a little bit about kind of the format of the book?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, so there are 30 chapters in the book, and they're all about gifts that God gives us when we suffer. And that might sound like a paradox, and it is, because God invites us into suffering because suffering helps us trust Him. And when we turn around and face Him and trust Him, He can use His eyes to lead us where He wants us to go. And so my first chapter is the gift of hope. I talk about the gift of courage, the gift of perseverance. And what I do is I talk about a biblical character in each chapter. Someone who has suffered, some from the Old Testament, some from the New Testament. And I talk about this person, like the blind man who was healed, or the invalid who was by the pool for 38 years, Naaman who had leprosy, different people who struggled. And then I use a story either from my life or someone else's life, current day story, and I weave these stories together to make the Bible more relatable to today, where some people might struggle understanding the Bible. And some of these stories, I weave stories from today to help people understand what these biblical stories mean. So the word that people describe the book in my reviews that I've received on Amazon, the most common word that comes from it is hope. They feel hope after they read it. And that was my goal, and that's my first chapter. So I'm very pleased that that's the message that's coming across. But yeah, I share my stories of suffering. I share about being hungry when we were in Los Angeles, because we had no jobs and no money and no food. We had to figure that out. And my husband wrote a chapter because caregiving is often overlooked, and that's an important part of suffering. So he wrote a chapter, and then I had another friend who has a form of MS. He's the only one in the world who has this form of MS. And so I asked him to write a chapter.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah. So there's a couple of other people that wrote a chapter. And then my final chapter is the gift of brokenness. And the gift of brokenness is Jesus. Jesus broke himself for us so we wouldn't have to be broken. And he brought ultimate healing. So that's kind of the summary of the book. And then there's the study guide that goes with it. And the study guide is basically, goes through each of the chapters, but it's to help whoever reads the book to personalize the book to their own situation. So it's complementary to the book.
That's what I'm talking about, indeed. So I'm talking about indeed. So folks better buy some copies of this magical book. It's red too. So if you like some red, think of some flowers. Get it for your loved one, your caregiver. That's right. Grab a whole stack of them. That's right. Grab a whole stack of them, indeed. And so sorry for the loss of your parents, especially with the recent passing of your father 2 years ago. That I know that's definitely got to be rough.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And it's good that you had your husband add a caregiving chapter to the book too, because that's the thing is that usually when it comes to stories of suffering and folks usually whether it's hospital or just home care, it's like a lot of attention's not really added to the caregiver at all, or at least usually they hear all the stories of
Mm,
folks who've been in pain and overcame, and it's like, hey, there's a caregiver or multiple caregivers, a whole team of them involved too. And it's really good that he was able to add a chapter to that. So my goodness, like that's just shows the viable piece of why we're all better together. We all need to make sure we be thankful for our caregivers too.
amen. I love that. Yes, because I mean, none of this would be possible without my husband. He has been by my side twice, not just once, but twice. And the first time with little kids and trying to figure out how he was going to do life without me. But yeah, shout out to caregivers because they are often ignored and, they have suffering too. They have, they're suffering trying to figure out why can't I fix this person I'm caring for? And they can't fix us, but they sure try to. And they serve us. And I mean, I can't drive. So, you know, Mark is my chauffeur. He's my chef. He's helps me get to bed. He does everything, you know. He works his schedule around mine so that I can live, so that I can function. And I'm in his office right now. He's giving up his office for me.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. True loving spouse right there. True loving spouse. Got to be grateful for that, especially with the whole pandemic thing. So I guess now to think about it, like with a lot of folks last year, folks were trapped in their houses and thinking like, man, for better for worse, like this worse. I didn't know how worse it could get. As opposed with the, sounds like you two were able to still stay strong. So do you think it was really just him being around you a lot already helped you keep, well, I guess stay married during this pandemic? So any advice for those out there maybe dealing with that situation right now where
Mm,
they're like, oh man, I did not know the better for worse part was real about the worst part.
yeah, it's interesting. The pandemic actually, people came into our lives more because Zoom came about. So it actually helped me have more community. And so I think just being grateful, you know, we just need to be grateful that we're here, that we can still function. We can find different activities to do, writing a book. Maybe a lot more people can write books. Like I did it. You can certainly do it. If I could do it when I'm disabled and hurting, you can do it while you're well and need something to do or start a podcast but I think the focus that Mark and I had and still have is to give. And sure, it's limited, you know, but why not pick up the phone and call somebody again? That used to be common. That used to be something that we would do, we can bring calling people back, into 2021. Just pick up the phone and call someone and focus on giving rather than woe is me. I'm alone. Well, you don't have to be alone. You can get on a Zoom call and I'm starting up a Bible study, a new Bible study, because I've been meeting a lot of lonely women. And so I'm inviting people via Zoom, you know, anybody who wants to join by Zoom can join us by Zoom. And then just, a handful of women who I've met who are very lonely, and maybe because of the pandemic and maybe for other reasons, but we can gather together in small groups again, and you know and be safer, and focus on giving, or start knitting, a knitting club, or something like that, or fishing, do virtual fishing online. I don't know. There's all kinds of castle tours online too. You can go on a castle tour and find different things, go on a vacation on Zoom. Yeah.
Sounds like that virtual reality stuff right there. The whole vacation thing's like, oh, all right, my mind doesn't know the difference. And then you take the thing off. It's like, oh, I'm still here. Darn.
Uh, yeah. Need to make a special dinner or something, or whip up some hot cocoa and keep the thing going.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Especially if it's cool.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's right. With some of the whips, maybe not all the whips,
You're hilarious, Tom.
Oh, well, I appreciate it indeed. So, since you've been on this virtual book tour, on these podcasts, and promoting the book, promoting the good stuff you're doing, and
Mhm.
connecting with all other super special, awesome humans, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often?
Wow, that is a great question. What beauty beyond the thorns means. I think, it's stated in the book, and I stated it on this podcast, but I want people to know that this is a biblically based book, and Jesus is beyond the thorns. He's there. So don't forget about that. But it's not just a book written for believers. It's a book written for people who are seeking, for people who don't believe. And because it still helps people through their suffering. And so I want to invite people who are listening who maybe don't believe to not be freaked out by that. And anybody is welcome to read the book and stick with it, just so you can get to the end and see the brokenness of Jesus, that last chapter, and how he heals our brokenness. So I think what is the beauty? Who is the beauty? What does that mean?
Ah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's right. Gotta love Jesus. That's right. That's right, indeed.
Hmm.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed, because he loves us, and a lot of things that humans also love is food. So if your book was a food item, what would it be and why?
Well, it would be dark chocolate, because it makes you want to eat it because it's chocolate. So it makes you want to eat it, but it also makes you want to savor it, because if you savor dark chocolate, it tastes better. If you just let it melt in your mouth and you consume it a little bit more slowly and don't gobble it up. And dark chocolate's healthy for you. And I have a nutrition chapter in the book. Since I'm a nutritionist, I had to throw a nutrition chapter in the book. So dark chocolate for sure.
Ah, there you go. So it's a red book that's like dark chocolate. All right. Sounds like a Valentine's gift.
It does. Chocolate covered strawberries.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. All the strawberries of the chocolate, indeed. That's what I'm talking about. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time you're in the current year with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
That you don't need to stress so much. You don't need to worry so much about what's going to happen tomorrow or what this suffering, whatever the current suffering that I was going through then, or that whoever's listening is going through now. I would tell myself, when you age, you kind of settle into being more okay with what people think about you. It's okay. It doesn't matter. What you do is what you do. And you stay focused on your road and don't worry about if someone's surpassing you, or if someone, sure, care if someone's behind you and be a helping hand. But don't worry so much about what other people think of you, and don't worry about your suffering, because God's got you. God's got you, and He's got a plan, but you have to engage with Him for Him to use that plan. You have to follow Him and trust Him, or He can't do it, because you're going to get in the way. So stop getting in the way of yourself and God's plan for you. And that's what I feel like right now. I'm just open to God. I'm trying to be open to anything. God, what do you want me to do? Like, just what do you want me to do? Show me. And that's why I'm starting this Bible study, because I feel like He gave me a very significant nudge to start this Bible study. And I can't walk, but other people can be my feet. So even if you're limited, God has a plan. God will make it come together. God will make it work. We just have to trust Him. So that's kind of a long answer to your question. But
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. We don't mind long answers here, you know. We encourage wiener dogs, y'all. I'm telling you, that's right.
kind of both. Yeah.
That's right. So is that going to be the name of the Bible study? Darci's feet.
No, I do have a name though.
Ooh.
I think I want to call it reflection.
Ah.
And the reason why is because, God has called us to be a reflection of Him, right? But also, Bible study is a reflection of who He is. So it's kind of a homonym and double meaning. So I kind of like the word reflection. So funny that you asked, because I was thinking about that yesterday, and we'll have to get everybody else's input and see if that works.
Hey, well, with that explanation, I freaking like it. Like Reflections Bible
Okay.
Study. That's right. That's,
Don't you like it? Like, it just sounds right.
yeah, that's right. Yes, indeed. Because yeah, the thing about the Bible, it's a good book. It's like, yeah, it's encouraging, but also it's also a two-edged sword. Cuts in and out when you get to the certain parts about the convictions. Like, oh, darn. All right, got to this part about the
I
sin.
need to reflect on that a bit. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like,
Exactly.
had a mirror force moment here.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It's like, Mirror, why are you so mean? Like, oh, I'm not mean. I'm just giving you the truth. Like, oh, dang, that just really cut deeper.
Yeah. I need a little time to reflect, right?
Well, for those who not only
Hmm.
want to reflect, but also need to snag some copies of this marvelous book and everything else you got going. Oh, is this book going to be an audio too?
I'm just starting the process of audio. So yes, it will be, but it's not yet. So stay tuned for the audio version. But yeah, both the book and the study guide are ebook and paperback, and they're on Amazon, and I'm working there. It's in one brick and mortar so far, almost in two brick and mortars. So I'm working on the brick and mortar part of it, but it's found on other places online like barnesandnoble.com and, various other retailers.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. That's right, folks. Head over to the magical show notes. Indeed, head over to Darci's site. Check out all the stuff she's doing. Heck, if she even has an open invite to the book club, be on the lookout for that too. Because definitely the more, the merrier, indeed, and especially that audiobook too. Because you're gonna read it, right?
Oh, read the. I'm going to read it myself. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. All right, cool.
Yes. I don't. When you write something so personal, and I give a window into an evening of my deep suffering, it has to be in my voice because no one else can emulate it exactly. So yes, I will be the narrator.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. We get to have Darci on the go in more ways than one. That's what I'm talking about. All right, good. Good. That's what I'm talking about indeed. It's always great when the authors read their own books. That's right.
I love it too. Hmm.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. Well, there you have it, folks. You got your marching orders. Grab a copy or 99 copies of Darci's book. Share with your friends, family, cat, penguin, camel, cat, dog. Heck, even if you have a cat dog, share it with them too so they can meow about the wonderful thorns that are there, but also the beauty that's there too. So, any parting words before we close up shop, Darci?
Oh, yes. I just love to speak hope into people who are listening who might feel hopeless or, to not give up. If you are going through something, time passes, things get better over time. Generally, if you are in a place where you're not going to get better and you have, you're dying, you're in hospice or something like that, you still don't have to give up hope because Jesus is the beauty beyond the thorns. He is our hope. And every day can still have meaning here on this earth and then in heaven. So no matter where you are, please don't give up. I have been in a place where I've wanted to give up. I felt like I couldn't get through. And my perseverance chapter talks about that. I wanted to die. I wanted to die because I didn't know how I could go on. But please just look for hope and the beauty that lies beyond your thorn. So, yeah.
How's it going, my friend? I'm so glad you made it to the end. That shows that you are an uncommon finisher, and I am so grateful for you sharing your ears, your attention, and your time to this wonderful podcast. To do something that'll take yourself to the next level, and for everybody else involved in this wonderful program, share it with at least 3 people in your network so that way more folks can not only catch the fire that is on this podcast, but can also be inspired to be their best. Advance others to advance yourself.